365801 and this is video number 7 in my Behind Closed Drawers BL Collection Tour series. As you can see, in this drawer we have a little bit more space, which is how I would probably like all my drawers to look. And we also have some Net comics, we have some Drama Queen, we have some One Piece books, and we have some 7 Seas. So if you're interested in those publishers or imprints, then stick around and we'll go through my collection. To start with, we're going to be looking at the Net comics that I have in my collection, and the first one that I have to show you is Dining Bar Akira, and that is by Tomoko Yamashita. Tomoko Yamashita also has another work I think is by Net Comics, Black Winged something, I don't know. I have it, I read it, I really enjoyed it actually, and this one as well. It is one that I started reading, but I didn't finish it actually, and I think I just need to be in the right frame of mind. It's about people working in a restaurant, and I think I could probably just quickly read through it, but I wasn't really in the right frame of mind to finish it. So I've got like 3/4 of the way through and just got distracted by life, so I'd like to go back and reread it from the beginning. I think it's a little bit more dense, and it's one of her earlier works, so it definitely has a more rough, dark, heavy, thick lined art style compared to what she's producing now, which if you've been following me on Twitter, you know I am an absolute massive fan of Tomoko Yamashita's Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window, and it is an amazing series. I absolutely love it. So if you'd like to check out some of her work, go on over to Sublime. It's a digital only title, so go give it some love because it is amazing, and there are 6 volumes already out, so I'm looking forward to the 7th one. So yeah, I was really looking forward to reading some more of Tomoko Yamashita's work, and as I said, her other title by Net Comics I really loved. It was a series of short stories and I liked them all, it was really good. But this one, for some strange reason, I just wasn't able to get into in the same way. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it another go, because I do really like her other work and I want to see what kind of work she's come from and where she's going. Although where she's going right now I'm really happy with, so go give it some love. Tri-Cornered Window's so good. I hope everyone's checking it out. The second work I'd like to show you is Honey Senior Darling Junior, and this is by Ochi Chihumi, also by Net Comics, and as you can see I have 2 copies of volume 2 for some reason. Ochi Chihumi has another work. I can't quite remember the name at the moment, and I'm not too sure who actually published it. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of searching around for it. I think it's quite a long series, and it's incredibly difficult to get hold of. I've seen it once as a full complete set, and it was astronomical, the price that was being asked for it, but then I've never seen it since, so that's kind of showing how difficult it is to get hold of. So yeah, I would like to say that I'm interested in getting it, but as I have not read this series yet, I am reserving judgment. I'm just going to put it out there right now. Most of the stuff in the Net Comics section that I have not actually read yet, which is why I probably don't have a huge desire to make sure that I get it. Yeah, but yeah, this is a manga that I'm happy to have in my collection, but as of yet I haven't read it, so I can't really sing its praises as of yet. Age Called Blue by STM is the title that was published by Net Comics for STM. As I've already mentioned in previous videos, she does have 2 titles by Dia and 1 title by Sublime, and that is the complete 4 volumes that have been printed in English. Please let me know if there's any digital titles of hers that have been published, because I know there's a lot more digital BL out there, but as I'm mostly a print collector, I do try to get everything that is in print, so I have everything that is in print now by STM. I'm very happy to have this one. Yeah, she's quite a cult favourite I think in Japan, because she was one of the pioneers for slightly odd and out of the box thinking when it came to BL stories. So yeah, Age Called Blue. Very happy to have this one in my collection. And as you'll notice, this is the final one that's an actual manga. The rest by Net Comics are manhwa. So these are the Japanese titles translated into English. The rest will be Korean. The fact that these are now manhwa that I'm going to be talking about for Net Comics means I will be butchering these names, and I apologise sincerely for that. I have not learned Korean except for the odd phrase here and there, or singing along to K-pop songs, so my pronunciation of Korean is very, very poor. So please forgive me if you are Korean or you know Korean and you're like, that's not how you say that, because I already know that's not how I say that. Anyway, so Sweet Blood is one that I started collecting just because volume 1 was like a couple of pounds on Amazon, and so I added it to my cart and I forgot about it, and then I bought it and it arrived and I was like, oh great, and then promptly realised that there was going to be like 10 volumes, and someone on Twitter said, oh, it's such a good series, you have to get it. But of course, knowing me, I'm like, no, I want to get them all before I start reading it so that I can enjoy the whole thing. But I really should just start reading even if I don't have them, so that I can be enthused and excited and try to collect the rest, because I have only collected them when I've seen them for good prices. And by good prices I mean like volume 9 was a couple of pounds, and it was even lower like the next week and the week after, and it just kept dropping down till it was like barely a pound. So occasionally you can get some really good deals, and I got all of these volumes for a really good price. So I have volumes 1, 2, 3 and 4, I missed volume 5, volume 6, missed volume 7, 8, 9 and 10, and I've just taken out the 8, 9 and the 10. For some strange reason I bought all of the even numbers, like I had volume 1, then 2, and then 4, 6, 8 and 10, and then I got 9, and then I got 3, and yeah, so I'm missing 5 and 7. Those are the two that I need to get to be able to sit down and read the whole thing. This is Sweet Blood by Se-young Kim. Hopefully that's it. 10 volumes is the final volume. I do know that they have some extra, usually with Net Comics, because it is an online service, they have other stories or extra stories and things like that. So maybe you have the actual physical copies and aren't aware that there are some maybe extra stories as well. So they do have a tendency to have not just the story but the extras as well, which I like, because once you've read a story you're like, oh that's nice, but I want more, and then you get an extra little bonus and it's nice. So yeah, Se-young Kim I think also has another work out that I need to get, something, I can't actually remember what it's called, but yeah, I think it's a single volume, so I'll need to get that. I do love the artwork on the front, it's very, very beautiful. So I've been told it's a great story, but I have not yet read it. Dreams of the Days by Kyunga Yi. This is a one-shot, I think, and it's about teenagers kind of coming to terms with their sexuality. I've had a quick, flick through it when I got it, but I haven't actually read it yet. So I know that this author has other works, and I think they're available through webcomic providers, so like Lesin might have some of her work too. Yeah, I think that there's a work on either Lesin or one of the other online apps that you can get. So yeah, there are more of her works available, but not necessarily in print. I think that's the way that Net Comics have some of their work, so they'll have some of it on line, and if it does well or if it gets enough love, then they print it. So this is one that has been printed as a one-shot. This is Raccoon's work, You Don't Know Me. This is again about childhood friends and growing up and exploring sexuality. Apparently this is quite a dark one, but as again, I have not read it, so I don't know what it is. It's still in its plastic. Yeah, it seems like it's quite a dark one. I think there's quite an element to a lot of the manhwas that I've read. They tend to have you know, the normal themes, but a slight darkness to them. So yeah, this I think is supposed to have that as well. But I haven't read it yet, so I'm looking forward to delving a little bit deeper into my manhwa collection. Behind Story Volumes 1, 2 and 3, and this is by Narai An. I got, I think, one of the volumes. I think I ended up buying volume 3, and then I saw volume 1 for a really good price, and then I took forever to find volume 2 at a good price, so I just didn't bother reading it until I had all 3 volumes. It is only a 3-volume story. It's also supposed to have some dark themes in it, and I think that's what puts me off, because as much as I, you know, sometimes like that occasionally, I generally try to shy away from things that are going to make me feel bad or make me cry. And this seems like it might have some dark themes or bittersweet themes and those kind of things I'm not really such a fan of. I like smexy good times and I like fluff. And I like to walk away and go, oh, or and this one, it will probably make me go, oh, and I don't particularly like doing that, so I haven't quite got around to it. But then I feels like I only just got the 3rd volume that I needed to complete the set recently, so I haven't bothered to get around to reading it yet. Prince Barry story, Solanine Maki does the art. I think they're 2 people. It looks like it might be, but I'm not entirely sure. This is volume 1. I know that volume 2 has been printed, but I don't have a copy of that yet. And I know that it's continuing to be printed in webcomic form, so you can go and access it if you like webcomics as well. And it's the story of some sort of like clairvoyant, it says shaman on the back, but he is a con artist, but then of course he has to actually face the consequences of being called out by someone who actually has a ghost haunting them. So it's supposed to be really funny, it's supposed to be really good. I want to sit down and read it. It's supposed to be really fantastic, and the premise sounds something like I would want to read, so I might just sit down and read this actually. It's looking like it's really interesting, so but then I'll want volume 2 straight away and I'll be like, no, don't buy it. But yeah, there is 2 volumes available, I know. Hopefully there'll be a 3rd one in print soon as well. So Prince Barry looks really interesting, looks like the kind of story that I would like. I know I've said I really like fantasy stories and things that are gothic or odd, and this is supposed to be one that's like that. Reading the synopsis at the back, it was all about monsters and bugs and portals, and yet it just seems a little bit too far-fetched, a little bit meh to me. Uho Jin? 3-volume story, Core Scramble. I'm not sure if there's more of this, like online on their netcomics website. I'll have to check it out. Once again, this was like a random purchase because one of the volumes was really cheap. I think it was volume 3 I got, incredibly cheap. But then of course I had a volume 3 and I didn't want to just read the volume 3, I wanted to read the first part of the story. Realising that I had the last of the story, not the beginning. So it's taken me a while to get the whole story. I don't know which volume I bought, but I did not buy the one that I needed to sit down and read this. So I've not actually got round to it, so it's just been a process of slowly collecting to be able to read it. And now that I have it, I'm like, meh, okay, I'll get round to it at some point. So, as usual, I need to sit down and read this, because I think this was one of my first net comics that I ever actually bought. So, Core Scramble. It seems like it might be interesting. I'd like to read it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Hanger premise for the new Tokyo Pop title. So we'll see about this, if it's one that's like that. The first of my Hey titles, I'm so sorry, is Rudeville, and I have volume 1 and volume 2, and this was before I knew that there was a volume 3. I bought this because it came with like a set of something, and I was buying something else and it was like, oh, volume 1 and 2 of Rudeville, and I was like, great, brilliant. I didn't know that there was a volume 3 and that apparently it's really hard to get, so it's on my to get list, but I've only seen it once and it was very expensive and it was with lots of other things that I didn't need, and I've never seen a volume 3 for sale on its own, so I don't know if I can get the chapters online, so maybe I can just read the story and then read whatever is available online, because sometimes Netcomics has that. But yeah, I have an incomplete Rudeval. If anyone even knows what the cover looks like, that would be great, thanks. Just send me a wee tweet on Twitter, because I don't know what volume 3 of Rudeval is supposed to even look like. So yeah, it's something to get. I honestly forgot that I had this. This is another High's title, not so bad, and I've literally only just read the premise on the back. Up until this point I had no idea that I even had this. I was like, oh yeah, I have that. Oh. It is only 2 volumes. It's supposed to be quite a sweet fluffy one, so the premise sounds really good actually. The kind of absolute nonsense fluff that has no real depth kind of thing that I'm like, oh okay, I can read that and then, you know, promptly forget all about. So apparently there is a character who is very rich and bored, and a character who's a bit of a loner and poor, and they end up sharing an apartment, and there's only one bed. Of course. Of course. Of course. And so yeah, not so bad. Sounds actually like a fun little read, and because it's only 2 volumes and I have them, I could just sit down and read it, so yeah. One that I should probably put on my to-read list. Aegis has 6 volumes in print. I have all 6 volumes. This is by Jinha Yu, and I think there's actually about 9 volumes in total. So if you wanted to read the rest, or if you wanted to read it from the beginning, it would be available on Netcomics online, and I think they also have some extras too. But for whatever reason, they only printed the first 6 volumes in actual print rather than just online. And this is not really supposed to be a boys love BL type story, but has like elements to it. Maybe it is very BL, but I don't know because I haven't read it. The premise sounds a little bit meh. A little bit like Core Scramble, you know, like so fantasy, it's beyond any absolute reasoning, and so for me it's like meh, switch off. So yeah, there's a particular type of story that I like, but in a way her artwork and her art style reminds me a little bit of Silver Diamond, and I love that. So I really did think when I first got it, oh, maybe it's a wee bit like that, I should probably collect them. So it took me a little while and I got them. I got, I think, just the first couple of volumes because they were really cheap, and then I managed to find the rest of them a few weeks later as well. So I managed to collect them, not knowing what they were, what it was about, if it was even BL, and how many had been printed. And so afterwards I discovered, oh, so yeah, they didn't finish printing this. Great. Which puts me off straight away. But yeah, I do like the artwork, it's nice. So I would like to read it, but I just kind of, something's holding me back, but I don't know what it is. I'll get round to it eventually. I think that's everything I have for my Netcomics in the drawer, but of course I have some as well in my other collection. For my Netcomics in my other collection, as you can see from the photo, that Black Winged Love, that's what it's called, Tomoko Yamashita's Black Winged Love, which is a series of short stories which I really enjoyed. I thought they were really good, so I definitely recommend that one if you can get a copy. And I also have another copy of Honey Senior Darling Junior Volume 1, which means I have 2 complete sets, Volumes 1 and 2. Oh, there you go. Do I have 2 copies of Black Winged Love? So I do. Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that. That's shocking. So yeah, I have 2 copies. I thought that was like some sort of optical illusion. Nope, that's just me. And I have volumes 1 through to volume 6 of Totally Captivated by Hajin Yu. I do not have the other copies of Totally Captivated. They have some extras and spin-offs and things, so yeah, I'm gonna need to get hold of those as well. But I think I should probably read Totally Captivated first. So yeah, that's my collection for knit comics. So moving on to the Drama Queen publisher, they are out of business, they've gone defunct. So what's being published is what's available, so if you can get hold of them then you can make a complete set, which is what I'm aiming to do. Although I did buy this one and I'm a bit like, meh, I really don't care about it. This is like OEL, and not the greatest OEL. I know I'm really like harp on about how much I dislike it, but I'm just not really a fan of a lot of OELs from that time period. The artwork is not always the best quality. Anyway, so this is Rush, issue number 0, and I know that there's like an issue number 1, and I almost bought it for a couple of pounds, and then I just thought, why waste your money? But now I'm like, well, you know, because you want to get the complete set. And so for me, it's more of a, do I want to complete the set with things I don't like? Having things that you're like, meh about? Although I do want to give it a little bit of a chance. And usually, when you're doing readathons and things, you know, they might put in one of the squares, read an OEL. I'm like, I should probably have some just for that purpose, because I like doing readathons. So yeah, that's why I have it. Not for any pleasure, which seems really bad. If you have read this though, and you like it, let me know, because, you know, I haven't even bothered to give it a try. That's how much I have a dislike for OEL. Brother by Yuzuha Ogi. This is a one-shot title. She has another title, I think it's published by Drama Queen as well, which I don't own yet. I almost got it for a really good price and I was like, oh, I'll get it tomorrow, and then it was gone. So, you know, non-buyer's remorse there. So Brother is okay. It's really not great. I read it very recently, and the story is about, you know, like stepbrothers who grow up and they both end up falling in love with each other, and so they end up being traumatized and have these sort of negative feelings towards sex because of their love for one another, because they feel like they shouldn't taint the other, and it's all like miscommunication and all that. It's very silly, it's very of its time. I don't know how they managed to have sex in the places that they had sex without anything. It was so stupid. And that, I think that's kind of the point as well. It's supposed to be like a comedy, but it was kind of on the comedy as well. It wasn't a great title. I laughed, but I also was like, this is stupid. And so it was kind of one of those throwaway titles. But Yuzuha Ogi has a lot of other works that haven't been published, and I don't have her other one, so I need to get that. So Your Honest Deceit by Sakufu Ajimine, and it's volume 1 and volume 2. The first volume has the characters in the front. It's about lawyers and pining and that kind of thing, like, oh, years later they end up getting together kind of thing. But it's also got other short stories, so it's got one-shot stories in it, and then the second volume is like a continuation of that particular one-shot. So one of the one-shots was good enough to spawn a few extra chapters, and so that warranted a second volume. And I think I've read bits of this when I first got it, but I didn't sit down and read it all, so I haven't read the second volume. But I was really happy to get it. So yeah, Your Honest Deceit volumes 1 and 2. These are the two works by Masara Minase that were published by Drama Queen, and that is Lies and Kisses and Empty Heart. Minase Masara has a particular art style. It's very obvious, and she's got a particular way of telling stories. They're kind of fairly throwaway. Like, I could read these and then like 2 days later not know what it was about, and I probably have done that a few times. I'm quite happy to have them in my collection though, because I know that I'm going to enjoy it while I'm reading it, and then I'm just going to be able to put it on the shelf and forget about it, and then come back to it and go, oh, what was this about again, and relive the enjoyment of that throwaway story. And sometimes that's what you want, something that you can just pick up and spend an hour or so reading, and then be like, that was good, yeah. And looking at it, I'm like, I kind of remember what it was about, but I know I enjoyed it, so. And I think that's what most of her works are actually like. So yeah, Lies and Kisses and Empty Heart for any Masara Minase fans. This is Yuri Ebihara's Allure, and I know I've read this, but for the life of me, I could not remember what it was about. So I read the back and I was like, is this all in one story or is this like one shots and stuff? So I had to actually like flick through it and check. The art style is okay. I think the art style inside is better than the artwork on the front. And when I read the synopsis, it was like, oh, well, I've read this story and I've also seen it a million times in Hallmark movies. It's about someone who gets an eye transplant, but instead of being able to see the people he's supposed to love, all you can see is the surgeon who performed the surgery. Why? Is it because of his alluring scent? Or, dun dun dun, is it because the eyes that he has transplanted into him were the eyes of his past lover? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so it's very Hallmarky in terms of the synopsis. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have read this, but I don't remember if I was enjoying it or if it was an okay story. And the other stories in it, I think, aren't actually related. So I have no idea because I can't remember. That's not always a good sign. As I've just been going on about how much Masara Minase's work, you can forget about it and come back to it and be like, oh, this is good. Whereas this one, I don't remember if it was good or not. So at least with the Masara Minase's, I'm like, yeah, I know this is good. I'm going to enjoy this. But I don't remember this one about Allure at all. I've mentioned in a previous video that I'm not a huge fan of Duo Brand's work. And this is Crimson Wind. And it is the second title by Drama Queen. This is a sequel to White Guardian, and I don't have White Guardian yet. I almost bought it, and I thought, it's a bit expensive, I'll wait and see if it gets any cheaper, and it didn't get cheaper and someone bought it, so I missed out in there. So I haven't actually read this one. It does sound like an interesting tale. It sounds like fantasy, the kind of thing that I would probably like. But as I said, there's just something holding me back with Duo Brand. I just don't know why. So maybe if I get White Guardian one day, because I've very rarely seen it since I saw it and didn't buy it. So I don't know, it might be a bit too expensive for me to get eventually, but one day I might read this, because it does sound interesting. But as I've said, I'm not all that enthusiastic about Duo Brand. For whatever reason, something's holding me back. Mio Tennoji had one of her titles printed by Drama Queen, and this is Love Me Sinfully, and I have read this, and it was very silly and throwaway and a bit fun. I think there's the main story, which is about someone becoming the Prince and the Pauper, BL style. He has to become the Crown Prince, and then I think there was some other stories at the end as well, which I can't really remember so well. But yeah, Love Me Sinfully by Mio Tennoji. I think I preferred her works that were printed in 801. This one seemed, well, it was okay, but it was a bit throwaway for some of the stories anyway. But yeah, another Mio Tennoji title that I'm happy to have. This is Shushushu Sakurai's work Junk. It's not the best quality. There's a bit of damage to the corner, but I think I was quite lucky to get the copy that I did, and I got it for a good price. I haven't actually read it, but I've looked at the synopsis and I've flicked through it, and it's like, this is actually something I'd probably really like to read. Not unsurprising considering I like the Desert Prince as well. This one seems to be sort of dystopian future, a fantasy one again, but it seems interesting. It's got artwork that I think might be quite nice, almost Clamp-esque in its sort of setting. I don't know. I'm gonna have to give it a wee go to see if it's any good. And I especially like how it's called Junk, which actually might be my new favourite title for a BL manga. Junk. It's a great title, you got to admit. Virtuosa di Amore by Uki Ogasawara. This is the title that I've tried to read a few times. I know I've read it all the way through at least once, but a few times I've tried to pick up and been like, hey, I know I like Black Sun, I should surely like this, and yet for some strange reason I haven't been able to finish it each time. It's just been like, so boring. It's not. It's just, for whatever reason, maybe it is boring, I don't know. Like, the characters are interesting, the artwork is fairly nice. It's not as polished, it's just not as nice as Black Sun, and it doesn't catch me straight away. It doesn't keep me there for a story, so for whatever reason this is not as good as her other works. I don't know, maybe Jamal is not there and that's why I don't like it. But yeah, also it's like lots of stuff about music, and I'm not really a musical person, so I'm like, I don't get this, is this supposed to be significant? And if you really like music, then maybe you'll be like, oh, but it makes all of these fantastic references and you should surely like this, and I don't actually get the references, so sometimes that's how it is. I do have some other works as well in my other collection. Now for my drama queen titles that are not in this collection, there's not actually a lot, there's only the 4 volumes. One is another copy of Your Honest Deceit, Volume 1, which means I have 2 complete sets. One is another copy of Lies and Kisses by Masaru Minase, not that I need it, but there you go. And the other is Lovely Sick by Shoko Omine, and that is volume 1 and 2. And because it's in my other collection, I haven't actually read it. I know it's about doctors and things like that. So, as you can tell by the title, Lovely Sick. But yeah, I haven't read it, so I don't know what it's about, unfortunately. But that's my complete Drama Queen collection. There's a few that I need to get. Actually, there's quite a lot of Drama Queen that I need to get. And honestly, most of them look like ones that I'd be like, meh, about. For some reason, I'm not really such a fan of most of the ones that Drama Queen published. Maybe they just don't resonate with me. But yeah, more to collect on that front. Moving on to my next publisher, and that is One Piece Books. And I'm just showing volume 1, which is I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino, and then volume 2, which is I Hear the Sunspot Theory of Happiness. And I have the other 2 volumes that are in print at the moment, and that is I Hear the Sunspot Limit, and that would be volume 1 and volume 2. And there is a volume 3 coming out in Japan, or just about to come out in Japan, which I'm really excited about to have an English copy one day. My other 2 copies are actually in my other collection because I read them, went to go visit, and then put them upstairs in the loft. So they're up there because I just couldn't be bothered bringing them all the way back home. So they're not in this collection, but I don't have a photograph of them. So if you're interested, go and check out my manga haul videos where I got them. So yeah, I Hear the Sunspot is absolutely beautiful. I highly, highly recommend it, but then everyone who has read it would probably also say the exact same thing, that they highly, highly recommend it. It's a beautiful story about, not just about BL, if you're interested in BL, but about disability. And it seems so realistic, it seems such a good representation of having a hearing impairment that's not necessarily being deaf, but how you navigate the world, and also having limits to, I guess that's what she called it, limits to what you can do. And I think that is also what the main character Taichi is really coming to terms with. And he does not have a physical disability or a hearing impairment, but he has limits on what he can do, and there is a limit to how much they can connect with each other. So I love the story between the 2 main characters. I love the story and what it represents. It's beautifully drawn. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Singing praises, but if you've read it, even the first volume, you'll know it's wonderful. If you haven't picked this up yet and you're thinking about it, go out and get it. Do yourself a huge favour because it is beautiful. It's just wonderful. I cannot wait for the next volume, which I think is supposed to be the last one, and I'll just read them all again and enjoy being in that world because it's just lovely. And look at the artwork on the front. Oh, so good. Just, I mean, you can feel the warmth, you can feel that breeze, you can feel and smell. Oh, just love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, I've not sung any of the praises yet because I've either not read them or not really that interested. Whereas this one, it's like 100%. And I'm really surprised that One Piece Books chose to print it. I'd like to see them print more because the choice they've made is a phenomenal choice. I want to see what else they would choose to print and put out there into the world. I don't think they've got any other BL-esque works. If they do, I'd like to know about it because this is a phenomenal title. It's worthy, such a worthy title. This is a manga that I've already done a video for, a review video, so if you want to go and know a little bit more about that, go and check out the video. I'll put a link up above. And I go on about it in quite a few of my videos, so I don't really think I need to go on about it too much here. If I have not convinced you to go and get this yet, I will never convince you because I just love it so much and it's fabulous and wonderful and everyone needs to go and read it and buy it. This is the first 7 Seas title that I have on show to offer you, and 7 Seas is like the new fella on the block that's kind of like, hey, and he takes his shirt off and you're like, oh, he's doing some gardening, we're doing some gardening, and then he like, you hear noises from the kitchen and he comes out with some pie and he's like, hey, I just made pie, you want a piece of my pie? And you're like, yeah, I want a piece of your pie. And then, you know, he's like, you know, coming out with his dog and playing frisbee with his dog, and then he comes out with like arms full of kittens and he's like, hey, I've got an arm full of kittens, you want some kittens? And you're like, no, but I'm good seeing you with it. Like, basically everything that he gives you, you're like, hello, yeah, tick 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 tick. Yeah, 7 Seas is doing really well just now with their choices of publications. And yet this one doesn't really get a lot of love in the same way that some of their others do. So yeah, I'm flying the flag for Fudanshi everywhere. The High School Life of a Fudanshi, 5 volumes, already all published. Go out and get them. They're hilarious because they're yonkoma and they're just wonderful, and I kind of want more. I really want more. That's just, it's so good. It just sings my life to me. So this is my autobiography, if you'd like to read it. The first title of 7 Seas. These next 2 titles really don't need too much of an introduction. They're both by Shunde. One is Go For It Nakamura, and that was the first title published that took the world by storm. By storm! And the next one is Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart, which just continued an amazing rise by Shunde. There should be so much more published in English, and I'm sure that there will be, because as far as I'm aware, there is more to the Go For It Nakamura story that is being published in opera. The same people that publish The Classmates by Nakamura Asumiko, which is another 7 Seas title, which I unfortunately do not have yet, but I will need to get. So they seem to have that connection with opera, which is well known in Japan as being probably the best for interesting, beautiful, thought-provoking BL titles. So opera is a good one to go for. So 7 Seas has really made a good partnership there. Now, Shunde's work is brilliant because it has that nostalgic, old school, almost 80s style drawing, but doesn't feel dated. It still feels fresh and fun, and it's comedic, it's interesting. I really loved Go For It Nakamura. It's the sweetest, most wonderful little story. You root for the characters, you love them all, and Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart is almost the complete opposite. It's dark, it's mysterious, there's something to uncover, it's got that, you know, that magical air about it. I really love this. I liked it in the same sort of way that I liked Sleeping Moon. That's another title that has that sort of feel. They're both very different, but they both have very fantastic, distinct art styles and such accomplished storytelling. You really are just sucked in straight away. These are the kinds of BL titles that we are blessed to have, I think. So yeah, I love these two and I want so much more. Any more, I'll take it. Yum yum yum, it's brilliant. I'm a little ashamed to say that I have The Cornered Mouse Dreams of Cheese, story and art by Setona Mizushiro, but I do not yet have the second volume, which I think is The Carp on the Chopping Board or something like that, Jumps Twice. So this is a story that I have been desperate to have published in English, and every time you get asked in one of those online surveys what title would you like published in English, and I was like, this one, I want this one. So I'm really annoyed with myself that the second volume has been out, and it's been out for a little while, and I haven't actually bought it. I definitely need to get a hold of this second volume so I can complete the series. I do have it in Japanese and I just love it. It's just such a great story. The art style is so distinct, and this is quite an old title. I heard that recently they reissued it, but with censoring, and so there was a bit of a kerfuffle in Japan because some of the stores had the older version that didn't have the censoring, and some of the stores had the new version that had been reissued with the censoring, and some of the stores had both of them because they had some of the old versions and then they got this new shipment in because they thought, we're re-releasing it, repackaging it, so people are going to want to go out and buy it. And so all the Fujoshis and Fudanshis in Japan were like, but we want the uncensored version. So there was a bit of like a run on the stores to try and get the uncensored version. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I don't want pixels. It's such a Fujoshi and Fudanshi thing to do, isn't it? Just to be like, hold on, what? Even if they had a copy already, it'd be like, well, which copy did I just buy? Because there's no way to tell. So yeah, I do need to get the second volume. I really desperately need to get it. So I'm gonna have to go search for a really good price because 7C's titles, they're usually not too bad, but some are a little bit pricey depending on the size. So I'm gonna try and get one. Yeah, Seto no Mizushiro. Lovely. It's definitely got issues. It's not like 100% perfect. It was done a very long time ago, actually. So there's some issues there, but I quite like the fact that it's a little bit problematic. I like that the characters are not necessarily likable. I like that there is a sense of, well, do I really want to root for them? No, actually. And yet you still end up doing it, and I think that's because she's a good author. It's a good piece of writing. When you read something and you're like, I don't necessarily think these are redeemable characters, and yet you want them to be. So, yep, I'm so happy with this title. I now need to go into my next crusade for Dear Green. That would be my next one to go for. This title, The Wise Beasts of the Wizarding Wisdoms, story and art by Nagabe, is not one that I was necessarily going, oh, I have to get this straight away. But I did have some money on a voucher, and I went into the bookstore and was able to pick this up because it was there, and I was quite surprised that it was there because it had literally just been released. So it was one of those, I don't usually buy titles as soon as they come out. I usually search around for a good title, or I'm focused on getting out of print manga that might be more prudent to get at the time because they are going for a good price. So I'll save my money, and knowing that I'll be able to get these newer titles when they're not so new. So I wasn't really expecting to get it straight away, but I did, and it's full of short stories, but they're all based at a wizarding school, and it's a bit like a furry Harry Potter. Yeah, no, actually that's pretty much, that kind of sums it up actually, furry Harry Potter. Because the wizarding school setting is just very much Harry Potter-esque. and all of the characters are animals. So yeah, that kind of covers it. They're little short stories. I liked the one with the snake and the deer. That was fun, and the bear one was okay. That was the only one with the human. So I wasn't like, oh, I must get this, because I don't actually have any other Nagabe works, but I know her other works, The Girl from the Other Side, is like hugely popular and everyone loves it and thinks it's beautiful. I did find the artwork a little bit dark, so not always easy to distinguish, but I thought it was really beautiful still. So, and interesting. But yeah, not every story in here did I enjoy reading, but I enjoyed reading the whole thing as a whole. I thought it was quite interesting. But yeah, I like this. I liked the snake one the most, and I liked the bird one because it was kind of like, ooh, dark, and not particularly, wholesome. But I quite like that. So yeah, this is a really nice work. I don't know if there's going to be any more of it though, but it's a good title to bring over. So well done, 70s. Now moving on to books that are not BL or BL adjacent, but are in the LGBT section of 7Cs that I have purchased, and this one is My Solo Exchange Diary #1 by Nagata Kabi, and this is a sequel to My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, and I have not got either volume 2 of this or My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. And I know that she's got a new one out as well in Japan that's about alcoholism. So yeah, these are supposed to be really, really good, but I want to get My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness and I want to get volume 2 of this. So yeah, I'm happy that I have it. It's in with the rest of my 7Cs, but I would like some more of her work as well. I'm glad that it's in with everything else though. It's a nice big trim, very good quality as you'd expect. So yeah, My Soul Exchange Diary. The last manga that I have in the drawer, and the last one I have I think for 7Cs, because I think all my 7Cs are together in here, and that is The Bride Was a Boy, and that is by Chi, and I've already done a review of this, so if you'd like to see that, I'll put a wee link up to that video. I think I did it during Christmas, and I've talked about this one in the video obviously, but even since making that I've had conversations with teenagers about trans rights and the process and things like that, and a couple of students that I was teaching wanted to know a little bit more about it, and I said, oh well, I've got this lovely manga that I can bring in and show you, and they were like, yeah, let's have a look. So I brought it in to show them, and they were really happy to have a wee look at it. They were like, oh, the drawings are really cute, this is really interesting. So yeah, it can be educational as well, and I think that's really special about this particular volume. So I'm really pleased that 7C's brought it over. I'm pretty sure I've seen this in Japan though. I've seen other ones as well that are a bit similar, that are these like autobiographical works, and it just like My Solo Exchange Diary, or there are more than just one type of manga. So like The High School Life of Danshi is a comic that's very much driven by comedy. It's yonkoma, so it's a particular style, and then you have these ones which are educational and autobiographical and non-fiction, and that's really good as well. So I think it's important to have more of these works in manga form brought over that are not just a story-based fiction, and I'm really pleased that 7Cs are doing that. So I feel this misplaced pride for being a manga fan. I don't know if other manga fans feel this as well, like when something that gets published like this, or like others that 7Cs have chosen, they've chosen great titles, and I feel proud to be a manga fan when something like this exists in the world. And so when you get people who are like, oh, you just like manga, or oh, should you be reading manga? And you're like, here, read this, you've got something to show that is more important than just the odd story. Especially when you can turn around and say, I'm not really sure what you're reading is the best literature either, but here, read this, this is important, this is useful, this is good for society, this is good for your soul. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the 7C's choices. So that is everything in drawer number 7 in my Behind Closed Doors series for my BL collection tour. In this drawer we had net comics, and obviously some other net comics in my other collection, most of which I haven't read. Some Drama Queen, which most of which I have not read, and those that I have read I can't say I really enjoyed. So both net comics and Drama Queen are not ones that I'm actively pursuing collection or that I'm like that bothered about. So it seems like this is my meh kind of drawer. And yet, I also have One Piece books, their one title, I Hear the Sunspot, which I am fully in love with, and absolute trash for, as well as all of the 7C's titles that I have as well, which are just wonderful, and I just love. So it's kind of an odd drawer, full of titles that I'm like, yeah, I'll get round to it one time, you know, when I've got some space in my life where I can be bothered, and then also, oh my god, I can't wait for the next volume, I must eat this now, it's so fabulous. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd drawer, is drawer number 7. Are there any titles that you think are worth collecting from any of these? As you can see, I don't have everything from 7C's yet. They've got a fair bunch of new ones that I really should be, because as I've said, even though the new ones are new, I'm not stressed about collecting them, and yet those are the ones that I'm most excited about getting. So yep, I should probably focus on getting things I love more than just getting the things. So yeah, let me know, are there any titles that you liked in here, or there are titles that you wish you had, and are they worth getting? I'll let you know. So yeah, I'll see you next video, guys. I put it off. It's going to be video 8 and 9, and there's just, yeah. I can't say I saved the best for last. I can't say that. But we'll see you anyway. If you're interested, stick around. Yeah, take care, guys. Bye.